I sat across from Gerald Hoffman's mahogany desk, watching him slide a termination letter toward me. His words were cold and final. "You've been declining projects to focus on your research. You're terminated." I didn't fight it. I just shrugged and said, "My research is important." He looked confused, almost insulted by my calm. What he didn't realize was that my research wasn't some personal hobby. It was a compliance violation report documenting 3 patient deaths, and I'd submitted it to the FDA that morning. 8 hours until everything changed. I walked out of Gerald's office carrying a small cardboard box with my desk belongings. My hands were steady, but my heart pounded. 6 months earlier, I'd been a loyal compliance analyst at TechBridge Solutions, a medical device software company in Austin, Texas. I loved my job. I believed in our mission, creating diabetes monitoring software for hospitals across the country. I thought we were saving lives. Then I found the first red flag. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late November. I was reviewing software validation logs for our newest product update, routine work I'd done 100 times before. But something didn't match. Clinical trial data showed adverse reactions from 7 patients during beta testing, severe hypoglycemic episodes, 2 hospitalizations. But when I cross-referenced the final report submitted to the FDA, those incidents had vanished, completely scrubbed from the records. I assumed it was a clerical error. I brought it to my supervisor's attention. She told me the data had been re-evaluated and determined to be unrelated to our software. "Equipment malfunction," she said. "User error, not our responsibility." But I couldn't let it go. I started digging deeper during my lunch breaks, staying late after everyone else went home. I created my own spreadsheet, tracking discrepancies between internal test results and official submissions. What I found made me physically ill. 3 patients had died. Their names were Julie Crawford, David Brennan, and Linda Hayes. Real people with families, lives, futures. They'd been using our diabetes monitoring software in hospital settings. The software had malfunctioned, providing incorrect glucose readings. Nurses had administered insulin based on those faulty readings. The patients had gone into severe hypoglycemic shock. All 3 died, and TechBridge had deleted every trace of their adverse event reports. The company had reported 0 deaths, 0 serious adverse events to the FDA. They'd backdated quality control documents to make it look like the software had passed all safety checks. They'd fabricated testing data. This wasn't just unethical, it was a massive federal violation under Title 21 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 11. People had died, and my company had covered it up to protect their bottom line. I realized the violations went back 3 years. Multiple product lines were affected. The company had been systematically falsifying safety data to meet investor expectations and launch deadlines. Stock prices were soaring based on false safety records. Executives were selling shares at peak values while patients were dying. For 6 months, I'd been secretly documenting everything. Screenshots, downloaded files, printed emails. I worked on it during lunch, before dawn, late at night. I told no one except Amanda, my colleague in quality assurance, and only because I needed her password to access certain archived files. Now, walking through the TechBridge lobby with my box of belongings, I felt Amanda's eyes on me from across the floor. She looked terrified. I gave her a small nod. We'd known this moment was coming. I pushed through the glass doors into the bright Texas sunshine. It was late April, temperature already climbing into the mid-80s. I headed toward my car, a 10-year-old Honda with a failing air conditioner. That's when William Drake stepped in front of me. Drake was head of security, ex-military, 55 years old with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. 2 security guards flanked him. "Miss Daisy, I need you to come with me," he said calmly. My stomach dropped. "Why?" "The company's legal team wants to speak with you. It won't take long. I've been terminated. I don't work here anymore." Nevertheless, he wasn't asking. He was telling. One guard reached for my box. "We'll need to examine your belongings before you leave the premises." They confiscated my work laptop and work phone. Then they escorted me back inside, not to the elevators, but to the executive conference room on the top floor. The room I'd only been in twice before, both times for company-wide presentations. As we rode the elevator up, I realized what was happening. They were going to try to stop me, to discredit my report, to threaten me into silence, to destroy any evidence I might have. But they were too late. The report was already submitted. The FDA had it in their system. There was nothing they could do to undo that. Except they didn't know I'd already filed it. If they found out, they'd start destroying evidence immediately. I needed to keep that secret as long as possible. The elevator doors opened. Drake led me down a corridor of expensive art and gleaming floors to the conference room. He opened the door. 3 people sat waiting at a long glass table. Gerald Hoffman sat at the head of the table, arms crossed. To his right was Dr. Trevor Moss, our chief medical officer, looking uncomfortable in his expensive suit. And at the far end, sharp as a blade in a charcoal designer's suit, sat Helena Strauss, chief legal officer. Helena was 44, with severe cheekbones and eyes that calculated every angle. I'd only met her once, at a holiday party. She'd seemed pleasant then. Now she looked like a prosecutor. "Sit down, Daisy," she said. Not a request. Saturday. Drake remained by the door, blocking my exit. Helena opened a leather portfolio. "Let's get straight to it. You've stolen proprietary company information. You've accessed restricted files without authorization. You violated your non-disclosure agreement. We could prosecute you criminally for theft of trade secrets. Do you understand the severity of what you've done?" I stayed silent. "Answer the question," Gerald snapped. "I have the right to consult an attorney before answering any questions," I said quietly. Helena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She slid a document across the table. "This is your NDA, which you signed when you were hired. The liquidated damages clause specifies that any breach results in damages of $500,000. That's $500,000, Daisy. Can you afford that?" I looked at the document, but didn't touch it. Dr. Moss shifted uncomfortably. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Daisy, we've always valued your work," he said, his tone almost gentle. "But you've made some serious mistakes here. Think about your career, your future. This will follow you forever. No one hires a whistleblower. You'll be blacklisted in the medical device industry. Is that really what you want?" Gerald leaned forward. "We're willing to be reasonable. Sign a statement saying your findings were in error, return all documents you've taken, and we'll give you 6 months severance plus a neutral reference. You can walk away from this cleanly." Helena added, "Refuse, and we pursue criminal charges. We have evidence that you accessed executive-level files without authorization. That's a felony under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. You could face prison time." They were trying to scare me into compliance. The threats were real, but they were also desperate. If they were confident in their position, they wouldn't be offering deals. They'd just have me arrested, which meant they didn't know yet. They didn't know I'd already filed with the FDA. "What exactly do you think I have?" I asked carefully. Helena's eyes narrowed. "You tell us. What have you been working on for the past 6 months? What files have you accessed? Where have you sent them? They were fishing. They needed to know what evidence I had so they could counter it, destroy it, or discredit it. My silence was my only leverage. I want to leave now, I said. Not until we have answers, Gerald said. My personal phone buzzed in my purse under the table. I ignored it. It buzzed again and again. Someone was calling repeatedly. Helena noticed. Something important? I pulled out my phone. 7 missed calls from my sister, Hannah. Then a text preview flashed on my screen. Daisy, cops are at your apartment. My blood went cold. Helena saw my expression and smiled. Yes, we filed a criminal complaint this morning. Austin police are executing a search warrant at your residence right now. They're seizing all electronic devices and documents. If you've taken company property home, they'll find it. I stared at her. You searched my home? We reported a crime. The police are investigating. That's how this works. Gerald looked almost satisfied. Still think your research was important? I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. I'm leaving. Right now. Drake moved toward me, but Helena held up a hand. Let her go. We've made our position clear. By end of business today, we'll be filing criminal charges formally. You have until 5 o'clock to reconsider our offer, Daisy. After that, you're on your own. I grabbed my purse and walked out. My hands shook. My apartment. They'd gone to my apartment. Hannah was there. She must be terrified. I ran to the elevator, jabbed the button, rode down in agonizing silence. I burst through the lobby doors and sprinted to my car. I called Hannah immediately. She answered, crying, Daisy, what's happening? The police came with a warrant. They have all your stuff. Your computer, your files, everything. The neighbors are watching. Mrs. Vance is so angry. Mrs. Vance was my landlord, a 67-year-old widow who'd always been kind to me, until today. Where are you now? I asked, starting my car. Still here. They're loading boxes into their van. What did you do? I didn't do anything wrong. I'll explain later. Just stay calm. I'm coming home. I drove through Austin traffic in a daze. They'd searched my home. They'd humiliated my sister. They were destroying my life systematically, methodically, and worse. They'd seized my backup evidence. I had copies of the compliance violations on 2 external hard drives in my apartment. If they destroyed those files or claimed I'd falsified them, I'd have nothing to support my FDA report. I pulled up to my apartment complex 30 minutes later. 2 Austin Police Department vehicles were still parked outside. Officers were carrying boxes from my second-floor unit down to a van. Hannah stood on the sidewalk, mascara streaked down her face. Mrs. Vance watched from her ground-floor window, shaking her head in disapproval. Neighbors clustered in small groups, whispering and pointing. I felt their judgment like physical weight. Detective James Moreno approached as I got out of my car. He was maybe 41, wearing business casual clothes and a serious expression. Miss Daisy, he said, extending a badge. I'm Detective Moreno, White Collar Crime Unit. TechBridge Solutions has filed a complaint alleging theft of proprietary information and unauthorized computer access. We have a warrant to search your residence and seize any materials related to their company. I'm a whistleblower, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I documented federal compliance violations. This is retaliation. That's for the courts to determine. Right now, I'm executing a legal search warrant. He gestured to the van. We're taking all electronic devices, external storage, and any documents that appear related to TechBridge. You'll get a receipt for everything. I watched helplessly as officers carried out my personal laptop, my tablet, my old college notebooks, 2 external hard drives, everything. How long until I get my property back? I asked. Depends on the investigation. Could be weeks. Could be months. He pulled out a business card. TechBridge's attorneys have provided substantial documentation showing you accessed executive-level files without authorization. That's a serious crime, Miss Daisy. I'd recommend you get a lawyer. Hannah grabbed my arm. Daisy, what's going on? They're saying you're a thief. Before I could answer, Mrs. Vance came outside. She walked over slowly, her expression pained. Daisy, dear, I'm going to need you to make other living arrangements. I can't have this sort of trouble in my building. Police searches, criminal investigations. The other tenants are upset. I'll give you until the end of the month, but then you'll need to leave. Mrs. Vance, I haven't done anything wrong, I said. Then why are the police here? She shook her head. I'm sorry, but my decision is final. She walked away. I felt like the ground was dissolving beneath my feet. My job, my home, my reputation, all disappearing in a single day. My phone rang. My father, Dale. He lived in Houston, 2 hours away. We talked every Sunday. This wasn't Sunday. Daisy? His voice was tight with anger. The Austin Police Department just called me asking about you. They wanted to know if you'd sent me any files or packages recently. What the hell is going on? Dad, I can explain. They said you stole from your company. They said you're being investigated for computer crimes. Is this true? No, I reported safety violations. 3 patients died because my company covered up software malfunctions. I did the right thing, and now they're trying to destroy me for it. Silence. Then, your mother is very upset. Don't contact us until this is resolved. We can't be involved in whatever trouble you've gotten yourself into. Dad, please. He hung up. Hannah stared at me. What's happening? I couldn't answer. I was losing everything. Family, home, job, reputation. All in less than 12 hours. Detective Moreno handed me a receipt for the seized property. You'll need to come to the station tomorrow morning at 9. The district attorney's office wants to interview you before deciding whether to file formal charges. What charges? Theft of trade secrets, unauthorized computer access, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Combined, you're looking at potential federal charges. You should really get a lawyer. He got in his car and drove away. The police van followed. My apartment door hung open, my belongings scattered and disturbed. I helped Hannah inside. We sat on my couch in silence. Then I pulled out my phone and started calling attorneys. I'd saved $3,200. It wasn't much, but maybe enough for initial consultations. First attorney. Whistleblower cases are complex. I'd need a $5,000 retainer just to start reviewing your situation. Second attorney. Criminal charges complicate things significantly. I'd need at least $10,000 up front. And honestly, if you're up against TechBridge Solutions, this could drain you financially. They have unlimited resources. Third attorney. I'm sorry, but I can't take your case. TechBridge is one of our firm's clients. Conflict of interest. I hung up and stared at the wall. I couldn't afford representation. Even if I could, it would take months, maybe years, to resolve. And in the meantime, my FDA report sat in limbo, waiting for authentication. I opened my email and found the message I'd been dreading. From the FDA, your submission, case number FD A2024C7843, requires additional authentication. Please provide notarized proof of employment and credential verification within 48 hours, or your complaint will be closed as unsubstantiated. 48 hours, 2 days to authenticate my report. But TechBridge had just fired me and was claiming I'm a criminal. How could I prove my credentials when the company was actively destroying my credibility? Hannah touched my shoulder. What are you going to do? I don't know. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed thinking about Julie Crawford, David Brennan, and Linda Hayes. 3 people who'd trusted a medical device to keep them alive. 3 families who'd lost someone. And TechBridge had erased them like they never existed. I couldn't give up. Not yet. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a LinkedIn message. The sender, Sarah K. No last name visible, just a generic profile photo. The message read, I worked at TechBridge 2 years ago. They did this to me too. I have information you need. Meet me tomorrow, 10 in the morning, Barton Springs. Come alone. I stared at the message. Was this real? Or another trap? I didn't have a choice. I was drowning, and this was the only hand reaching toward me. I messaged back, I'll be there. The next morning, I drove to Barton Springs Pool, a popular outdoor swimming area in South Austin. It was a Thursday, mid-morning, and the park was busy with joggers and dog walkers. The temperature had climbed to 78 degrees, typical spring weather. I arrived 15 minutes early and found a bench with a clear view of the entrance. My nerves were shot. I'd barely eaten in 2 days. Every car that passed felt like a threat. At exactly 10 o'clock, a woman approached. She matched the profile photo, mid-30s, shoulder-length brown hair, professional but casual in jeans and a blouse. She looked nervous, constantly glancing around. Daisy? She asked quietly. Sarah? She sat down, leaving space between us. Thank you for coming. I know you're taking a risk. What do you know about TechBridge? Sarah took a breath. I worked there from 2020 to 2022. I was a compliance analyst, like you. I found irregularities in clinical trial data. I reported it internally, thinking they'd fix it. Instead, they fired me. Then they sued me for violating my NDA. I couldn't afford to fight them. I settled, signed a silence agreement. I've been legally gagged for 2 years. Why are you talking to me now? Because I can't stay silent anymore. What they're doing to you is what they did to me, and I have proof. She pulled a USB drive from her pocket, copies of everything I documented back then. Violation reports, emails, testing data. It corroborates what you found. It proves this is a pattern, not isolated incidents. Hope surged through me. This could authenticate my FDA report. That's why I'm here. But you need to be careful. TechBridge has people everywhere. They monitor former employees. I'm risking everything by talking to you. Why help me? Because patients are dying. And I've been living with that guilt for 2 years. Maybe if we work together, we can stop them. She handed me the USB drive. I took it carefully, like it might explode. I have a lawyer, Sarah continued. He works on contingency for whistleblower cases. He might be willing to help you. His name is Patrick Sullivan, based in San Antonio. Tell him I sent you. Thank you, I whispered. This means everything. Sarah stood. Watch your back. They have resources you can't imagine, and they never forget. She walked away quickly, disappearing into the crowd of park visitors. I sat alone, holding the USB drive. For the first time in days, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. I walked back to my car, eager to check the drive's contents. As I crossed the parking lot, I noticed a man leaning against a black SUV, pointing his phone at me, taking photos. Our eyes met. He immediately got in the SUV and drove away. My paranoia spiked. Was I being followed? Watched? I got in my car, locked the doors, and pulled out my phone. I had an adapter that let me access USB drives through my phone. I plugged in Sarah's drive. It contained one folder. Inside, a single video file. I clicked it. Helena Strauss's face filled my screen. "Hello, Daisy," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Did you really think a former employee would risk everything to help you? Sarah Kennedy works for us now. She's been on our payroll for 18 months. Corporate investigations consultant. Every word she said to you was scripted. And we recorded the entire meeting from 3 different angles." My stomach dropped. Helena continued. "You just accepted a USB drive in a public park from someone claiming to have evidence. We'll argue you conspired with a former employee to fabricate evidence against TechBridge. We have video of the exchange. We have witnesses. Your FDA complaint is now compromised. Any evidence you submit will be questioned. And you've just committed witness tampering." The video ended. I sat in my car, trembling. They'd set another trap, and I'd walked right into it. Everything Sarah said was a lie. The USB drive was bait. They'd documented me accepting it, and now they'd use it to destroy what little credibility I had left. I'd been so desperate for help that I'd ignored every warning sign, and now I'd made everything worse. I started driving, no destination in mind. I just needed to move, to think, to not fall apart completely. Tears blurred my vision. I pulled into a gas station, bought terrible coffee, and sat in my car trying to breathe. Amanda called. My former colleague, the one who'd helped me access files. "Daisy?" Her voice was shaking. "They fired me. Today, they said I helped you steal files. My name is on the police report as a co-conspirator. I'm ruined. Why did you do this to me?" "Amanda, I'm so sorry. I never meant. Don't contact me again. Ever." She hung up. I'd dragged someone else down with me. Amanda had a family, 2 kids, a mortgage. And now she was unemployed because she'd trusted me. My phone buzzed with an email from my father. "Your mother is very upset. Don't contact us until this is resolved. We need distance from this situation." Even my parents were abandoning me. I sat in that gas station parking lot for an hour, staring at nothing. I thought about giving up, about calling Helena and signing whatever they wanted, claiming I'd made mistakes, that the evidence was wrong, that I'd misunderstood everything. Maybe I should just stop fighting. Let TechBridge win. Save myself and everyone around me from this destruction. 3 patients were dead. But was fighting worth this? Was it worth losing everything? My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. "Miss Daisy?" A male voice. Older. Professional. "My name is Robert Thornton. I'm an investigative journalist with the Austin Chronicle. I've been investigating TechBridge Solutions for 14 months. I know what you tried to do. I know they're setting you up. And I can help you. But you need to trust me. And we have very little time. I was too exhausted to be wary anymore. How do I know this isn't another trap? Because I know about the 3 patients who died. I know their names. Julie Crawford, age 47, from Round Rock, died February 12th, 2023. David Brennan, age 61, from Georgetown, died June 3rd, 2023. Linda Hayes, age 53, from Pflugerville, died September 28th, 2023. They're real people with real families, and their deaths matter. So does what you're trying to do. Only someone genuinely investigating would know those specific details. The dates, the ages, the cities. "Where do you want to meet?" I asked. "Coffee shop on South Congress." "Joe's Coffee. 1 hour. I'll be wearing a gray jacket. Look for someone who looks tired of corporate criminals." He hung up. I sat there, weighing the risk. This could be another setup. Another carefully laid trap designed to destroy me further. But I thought about Julie Crawford, about David Brennan, about Linda Hayes, real people who'd trusted a medical device and died because executives prioritized profits over safety. I started my car and drove to South Congress. Joe's Coffee was busy with the lunch crowd. I spotted Robert Thornton immediately. He sat at a corner table, gray jacket, gray hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He had the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much corruption and hadn't given up yet. I sat down across from him. "How do I know you're real?" He slid his credentials across the table. Press badge, business cards, copies of published articles with his byline. All legitimate. "I've been investigating TechBridge since a source at the FDA tipped me off last year," he said quietly. "A former inspector noticed irregularities in TechBridge's device submissions. Things didn't add up. He reached out to me off the record. I've spent 14 months digging." "What have you found?" "Financial records showing executives sold stock right before product recalls, patterns of complaints from hospitals that mysteriously disappeared. Anonymous tips from former employees too scared to go on record. And interviews with the families of the 3 deceased patients. But I need hard evidence, internal documents, validation data, the kind of proof that only someone inside the company could provide. That's what I had. Before the police seized everything." Robert nodded. "Your FDA report is that evidence. If we can get it authenticated and validated, I can publish a full investigation. The combination of federal action and media exposure will prevent TechBridge from burying this. They've already compromised my credibility. They set me up with a fake whistleblower this morning. They have video of me accepting a USB drive they'll claim proves I was fabricating evidence. I know. I saw you at Barton Springs. I was following you to make sure you were safe. I saw Sarah Kennedy approach you. I know she works for TechBridge now. You were following me? Protecting you. TechBridge has a history of aggressive tactics against whistleblowers. They've ruined careers, destroyed reputations, and bankrupted people with lawsuits. I wanted to make sure they didn't try anything physical. I studied his face. He seemed genuine, but I'd been wrong before. Why should I trust you?" Robert's expression softened. 12 years ago, my daughter died from a faulty cardiac device. The manufacturer knew it was defective, but kept selling it anyway. By the time the FDA forced a recall, 43 people had died. My Emily was one of them. She was 26 years old. His voice broke slightly. He cleared his throat. I couldn't get justice for her. The company settled lawsuits quietly, paid fines, and continued operating. So I became an investigative journalist. I've spent the last decade exposing corporate medical fraud. It won't bring Emily back, but maybe it prevents other families from losing someone. I felt tears building. I'm sorry about your daughter. Don't be sorry. Just help me stop TechBridge before more people die. We spent the next 2 hours at that coffee shop, reconstructing my evidence. I'd emailed some files to my personal account 6 months ago, before I knew I'd need them. Robert pulled them up on his laptop. Patient records, validation logs, email chains, showing executives ordering data deletions. It wasn't complete, but it was something. "This is good," Robert said. "But we need more. We need someone from inside the company to corroborate your findings. Preferably, someone with authority. Like who? Like Dr. Trevor Moss, the chief medical officer. He's the one who signed off on the falsified data. But I've been trying to flip him for months. He won't talk. He's terrified of criminal prosecution. What if I approached him directly? Robert frowned. That's risky. He'll report you to TechBridge immediately. They'll use it against you. I've lost everything already. What else can they take? We debated for another hour. Finally, Robert agreed. If you can get him to confess on tape, we have a case. Texas is a one-party consent state, so recording without his knowledge is legal. But you have to understand the danger. If this goes wrong, you could face additional charges. I understand. Robert pulled recording equipment from his bag. A small device that could be hidden under clothing with a wireless transmitter. I'll be nearby, listening. If anything goes wrong, I'll intervene. We researched Dr. Moss's background. He was 52, divorced, 2 kids in college. His social media showed religious posts, charity work, community involvement. He wasn't a monster. He was someone who'd made terrible choices and couldn't figure out how to make it right. Appeal to his conscience, Robert advised. Make him see the human cost of what he's done. Give him a way to be the hero of his own story. We planned to approach Dr. Moss that evening at his home in Westlake Hills, an affluent neighborhood west of Austin. But as we stood to leave the coffee shop, my phone rang. Detective Moreno, Miss Daisy, I need you to come to the station tomorrow morning at 9. The district attorney's office is filing formal charges. Theft of trade secrets, computer fraud, and conspiracy. You'll be arrested and processed. I'm giving you courtesy notice so you can arrange bail. Do you have an attorney? Not yet. Get one. These are serious charges. You're looking at potential federal prison time. He hung up. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. In less than 24 hours, I'd be a convicted felon. My credibility would be completely destroyed. The FDA would dismiss my report instantly. Everything would be over. I looked at Robert. We have to do this tonight. I'm out of time. He nodded grimly. Then, let's go get him. Dr. Trevor Moss lived in a large house with a perfectly manicured lawn and expensive cars in the driveway. It was 7:30 in the evening, the sun setting over the Texas hills, casting long shadows across the neighborhood. I wore the recording device under my jacket. Robert waited 2 blocks away in his car, monitoring the audio feed through headphones. My heart hammered as I walked up the driveway and rang the doorbell. Dr. Moss answered, surprised. He wore casual clothes, held a glass of what looked like whiskey, and his eyes were tired. Daisy? What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. 5 minutes, please. He glanced behind him, then stepped onto the porch, closing the door. He didn't want his family to hear. You shouldn't be here. TechBridge has filed criminal charges against you. I know. But you know what they're doing to me is wrong. You stole company property. You violated protocol. 3 people died. Trevor, Julie Crawford, David Brennan, Linda Hayes. You deleted their data. You signed off on falsified reports. You know this. He flinched at the names. His hand tightened on his glass. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And it's eating you alive. I can see it. He looked away, jaw clenched. The porch light cast harsh shadows on his face. He looked older than 52, worn down by guilt and alcohol. You're a doctor, I said quietly. You took an oath. First, do no harm. But you've been doing harm for years, and you can't live with it anymore. Those deaths were coincidental. The software had minor glitches, but they weren't the primary cause. You know that's not true. You reviewed the causality reports. The software provided incorrect glucose readings. Nurses administered insulin based on those readings. The patients went into hypoglycemic shock and died. And you deleted the evidence. Silence. His hands shook. He took a long drink from his glass. They're going to make me the scapegoat, I said. I'll go to prison while executives walk away. But eventually, the truth comes out. It always does. And when it does, you'll be implicated too. You think Helena Strauss is going to protect you? You think Gerald Hoffman will take the fall? No. They'll throw you under the bus to save themselves. The doctor who signed off on faulty data. You'll lose your medical license, your reputation, your freedom. Dr. Moss sat down heavily on the porch steps. He put his head in his hands. I didn't want this. I sat beside him, keeping my voice gentle. Tell me what happened. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he started talking. 2 years ago, Gerald pressured us to rush a software update to market. Clinical trials showed problems, but we had a commitment to investors. The stock price was tied to the launch date. Gerald told me the issues were minor, that we could patch them after release. I objected. I wrote a memo documenting my concerns. What happened to the memo? Helena told me to delete it. She said it would create legal liability. She promised me the software was safe, that our legal team had reviewed everything. He laughed bitterly. I believed her. I deleted the memo. And when patients started having adverse reactions, Gerald ordered the compliance team to reevaluate the causality assessments, to determine whether the software was truly at fault or if other factors contributed. Every report came back inconclusive: user error, equipment malfunction, pre-existing conditions. Never our software. But you knew better, I suspected. But I wasn't certain. And then the 3 deaths happened. His voice cracked. I wanted to report them to the FDA. I went to Helena. She told me I was already complicit, that if this came out, I'd go to prison for manslaughter. She said the best thing to do was stay quiet, let it blow over, make sure it never happened again. Did it happen again? He looked at me, eyes red. There are 7 more cases. Patients with permanent injuries. Hospitals assumed equipment failure. They never realized it was our software. We never reported them. 10 victims total. My stomach turned. Where's the evidence? I kept copies. All the original trial data, the deletion orders, email chains showing who ordered what. I put everything in a safety deposit box at Bank of America on Congress Avenue. Insurance, I guess, in case they ever tried to throw me under the bus. Trevor, you need to come forward. You need to tell the truth. I can't. I'll lose everything. You've already lost everything. You're drinking yourself to death. Your family barely speaks to you. You can't sleep at night. Is this really living? Tears rolled down his face. I'm a coward. I knew people were dying, and I stayed silent because I was scared of losing my career. What kind of doctor does that? The kind who can still make it right. It's not too late. He looked at me, desperate for absolution. If I testify, will they give me immunity? I don't know, but at least you'll be able to live with yourself. He nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. I'll give you everything in the safety deposit box. I'll testify. I'll tell the truth. Suddenly, the porch lights blazed on, flooding everything in harsh white light. The front door opened. Gerald Hoffman stepped out, followed by Helena Strauss. Dr. Moss's face went white. Gerald, what are you doing here? You weak fool, Gerald said coldly. You just confessed to everything. Helena held up her phone. And we recorded it. Trevor just admitted to destroying federal evidence. That's a 20-year felony. I stood, my heart racing. They'd been inside the house the whole time. They'd set another trap, and I'd walked right into it. Helena turned to Dr. Moss. "We're offering you a deal, Trevor. You testify that Daisy coerced you into this confession, that she threatened to frame you unless you supported her false allegations. You do that, and we'll give you immunity from prosecution." Dr. Moss looked between them, terrified. Gerald added, "Or we release this recording showing you admitted to manslaughter. Your medical license is gone. Your reputation is destroyed. You'll spend the next 20 years in prison. Your choice." Dr. Moss's face crumpled. He looked at me, then back at Gerald and Helena. "I need time to think." "You have 60 seconds, Helena said. "I couldn't let this happen. Trevor, don't. They're going to betray you anyway. The moment you testify against me, they'll discard you. You know how they operate." Helena glared at me. "You're trespassing on private property. Leave now or we call the police." 2 security guards appeared from around the side of the house. This had been planned. They'd known I'd come here. They'd probably been monitoring my phone, following me all day. "Actually, let's call the police anyway," Gerald said, pulling out his phone. "Harassment, trespassing, attempted witness tampering. Add it to her list of crimes." I felt despair crushing me. They'd won again. They were always 10 steps ahead. Then Robert's voice crackled in my hidden earpiece, so quiet only I could hear. "Daisy!" I called Dr. Stephanie Grant at the FDA. She was still at her office. I sent her the recording of Dr. Moss's confession. She's heard everything. She's issuing an emergency investigation order right now. Federal agents are being dispatched to Tech Bridge headquarters to seize all records. It's over. You won. I looked at Helena and Gerald and smiled. Helena noticed. "What are you smiling about? You were so busy recording me you didn't realize I was recording you too. And my partner sent everything directly to the FDA. Dr. Stephanie Grant, Senior Compliance Officer. She's heard this entire conversation, including Dr. Moss's confession, about 10 victims instead of 3. Federal agents are already on their way to your headquarters to seize your servers." Helena's face went pale. Gerald lunged toward me, trying to grab my jacket, searching for the recording device. I stepped back. Too late. It's already done. In the distance, sirens. Not local police. Federal vehicles, their distinctive tones cutting through the evening air. Within minutes, 3 black SUVs pulled up to Dr. Moss's house. FDA Office of Criminal Investigations agents, wearing jackets with bright yellow letters, emerged. The lead agent approached. "Gerald Hoffman, Helena Strauss. You're being detained for questioning regarding violations of federal drug and device regulations. You need to come with us." Gerald blustered. "You can't do this. We have rights. This is harassment. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it." They were led to separate vehicles. Helena shot me a look of pure hatred as she was guided into an SUV. Gerald looked broken, his confidence shattered. Dr. Moss stood on his porch, watching. As agents approached him, he actually looked relieved. One of them said, "Dr. Moss, we need you to come to our office for an interview. You're not under arrest, but we need your full cooperation." Dr. Moss nodded. "I'll tell you everything. I have documents, evidence, all of it." He glanced at me and mouthed, "Thank you." Robert appeared from down the street, walking quickly. He reached me just as the federal vehicles pulled away. "You did it," he said quietly. "We did it." But even as relief washed over me, I remembered. I was still supposed to report to Austin police tomorrow morning for my arrest. The criminal charges were still pending. TechBridge's civil lawsuit was still active. This wasn't over yet. Robert saw my expression. The FDA will notify local authorities that you're a protected whistleblower in an active federal investigation. The local charges will be dropped. And TechBridge won't dare continue their civil suit once the federal investigation confirms your allegations. You're going to be okay. I wanted to believe him. But I'd been beaten down so many times in the past week that hope felt dangerous. Come on, Robert said. Let me buy you a real dinner. You look like you haven't eaten in days. He was right. I hadn't. 3 weeks later, I sat in a coffee shop reading the Austin Chronicle's front-page story, TechBridge Solutions faces $15 million fine in medical device fraud scandal. Robert had written a comprehensive investigation detailing everything. The falsified data, the deleted patient records, the executive cover-up. His article included interviews with the families of the deceased patients and quotes from FDA officials confirming the violations. The FDA had moved quickly once they'd seized TechBridge's servers. The evidence was overwhelming. Executives had been sloppy, leaving digital trails everywhere, email chains ordering data deletions, financial records showing stock sales, timed to avoid losses, internal memos discussing how to hide adverse events. Gerald Hoffman and Helena Strauss were facing federal charges: conspiracy, wire fraud, obstruction of justice, and violations of medical device regulations. They each faced potential sentences of 10 to 20 years. Their attorneys were already negotiating plea deals. Dr. Trevor Moss had cooperated fully with investigators. In exchange for his testimony, he'd received reduced charges. He'd lose his medical license and serve 2 years in prison, but he'd avoided the worst consequences. More importantly, he'd finally told the truth. The district attorney's office had dropped all charges against me. Detective Moreno had actually called to apologize. We were given false information by TechBridge. The case against you was manufactured. You're completely cleared. TechBridge's civil lawsuit had been withdrawn. Their attorneys realized that pursuing it would only add obstruction charges to their clients' legal problems. My confiscated property had been returned. My computer, my files, my external hard drives, everything intact. Amanda, my former colleague, had called me crying. Daisy, I'm so sorry I doubted you. TechBridge offered me my job back with back pay, but I told them no. I can't work for a company that did this. Can you forgive me? I forgave her immediately. She'd been scared, just like everyone else. My father called next. Your mother and I saw the news. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. We should have believed you from the start. We were wrong. My sister Hannah came over with groceries and hugs. You're my hero, she said. Even Mrs. Vance, my landlord, knocked on my door. You can stay as long as you like, dear. I misjudged you terribly. I'm very sorry. The FDA's actions against TechBridge were severe. All products immediately recalled from hospitals nationwide. The company was barred from selling medical devices for 5 years. Fines totaling $15 million. And a criminal investigation that would likely result in more charges. The $15 million figure became symbolic. $15 million for 15 minutes of courage in Gerald's office when I'd said, my research is important. That single moment had changed everything. But the most meaningful part came when I met the families of the deceased patients. Julie Crawford's husband, Tom, shook my hand with tears in his eyes. Thank you for giving Julie's death meaning. We thought it was just terrible luck. Now we know someone will be held accountable. David Brennan's daughter Rachel hugged me. My dad always said the truth matters more than comfort. You proved him right. Linda Hayes' son, Christopher, asked if I'd testify in their wrongful death lawsuit against TechBridge. I agreed immediately. These meetings were painful, but healing. These weren't just names in a database. They were real people with families who loved them, and their deaths hadn't been meaningless. Their deaths had exposed a corrupt system and would prevent future tragedies. The whistleblower reward from the Securities and Exchange Commission came as a surprise. When corporate fraud affects stock prices, whistleblowers can receive 10 to 30% of recovered funds. My reward: $450,000. I stared at the check for an entire day, unable to process it. I'd been living paycheck to paycheck my entire adult life. Now I had financial security for the first time ever. I paid off my debts, helped Hannah with her student loans, donated $50,000 to a patient safety advocacy organization, and put the rest in savings. Job offers flooded in from compliance departments across the medical device industry. Everyone wanted to hire the whistleblower who'd exposed TechBridge. But I didn't want another corporate job. Instead, I accepted a position with a patient advocacy nonprofit. The pay was lower than corporate work, but the mission was meaningful. I'd help other whistleblowers navigate the system, using my experience to protect others from what I'd endured. Dr. Moss reached out through his attorney. He wanted to meet, to apologize properly. We met at the same coffee shop where I'd met Robert weeks earlier. I was a coward, he said immediately. I let patients die because I was scared of losing my career. You were braver than I'll ever be. You told the truth when it mattered, I said. That took courage. I'm losing my medical license. I'll serve 2 years in prison, but I'm sleeping again for the first time in years. My kids are speaking to me again. They saw me do the right thing finally. He paused. I can live with the consequences now. I couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I understood. Redemption is painful, but it's possible. Robert won a National Journalism Award for his investigation. In his acceptance speech, he thanked me. Whistleblowers are heroes. We just tell their stories. We remained friends, meeting occasionally to discuss new cases. He continued exposing corporate fraud. I sometimes served as an anonymous source for his investigations. The broader impact surprised me. The TechBridge scandal triggered congressional hearings on medical device oversight. The FDA implemented new whistleblower protections. Other medical device companies strengthened their compliance programs, terrified of similar exposure. Real systemic change happened because one person decided to speak up. 6 months after my termination, I reflected on everything I'd lost and gained. I'd lost a job, an apartment, some false relationships, my sense of security. But I'd kept my integrity, my conscience, my ability to look at myself in the mirror. And I'd saved lives. Maybe not the 3 who'd already died, but the hundreds who would have died next if TechBridge's faulty software had stayed on the market. That was worth any price. People often ask me if I'd do it again, knowing what I'd lose. My answer is always the same. I didn't lose anything real. I lost things that were never truly mine, but I kept what mattered most. I won't pretend it wasn't hard. There were nights I wanted to give up, days I thought I'd made a catastrophic mistake. The loneliness, the fear, the crushing weight of powerful people trying to destroy me, it was all real. But so was the rightness of what I was doing, and that rightness sustained me when nothing else could. If you're in a situation where you know something wrong is happening, where people are being hurt, where the truth is being buried, I want you to know something. You're not alone. Yes, it's terrifying. Yes, you might lose things. But silence has a cost too. Silence means more people get hurt, and you have to live with knowing you could have stopped it. 1 year later, I stood on a stage at a medical ethics conference in Chicago. The audience was filled with healthcare professionals, compliance officers, patient advocates, people who understood the system and its failures. I told my story. The audience listened in complete silence. When I finished, they stood and applauded for 5 minutes straight. Afterward, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 26, nervous, clutching a folder. "I work at a pharmaceutical company. I found irregularities in clinical trial data. I don't know what to do. I'm scared." I took her hand. "I know. I was scared too. But I can help you. You're not alone." We sat in the conference center lobby for 2 hours. I walked her through the process. How to document everything. How to protect yourself. Which agencies to contact. Which attorneys specialize in whistleblower cases. When she left, she looked less scared, more determined. The cycle continues. Truth-tellers helping truth-tellers. The system slowly improving because people refuse to stay silent. I think about Julie Crawford sometimes, about David Brennan and Linda Hayes. I think about the 7 other victims Dr. Moss mentioned, people whose names I'll never know. I think about all the patients who didn't die because TechBridge's software was recalled. That's what makes it worth it. Not the money, or the recognition, or the vindication. The lives saved. The families who didn't lose someone. The patients who'll never know their medical device was faulty because someone spoke up before they got hurt. You were so busy recording me, you didn't realize I was recording you too. And my partner sent everything directly to the FDA. Dr. Stephanie Grant, Senior Compliance Officer. She's heard this entire conversation, including Dr. Moss's confession about 10 victims instead of 3. Federal agents are already on their way to your headquarters to seize your servers. Free from guilt, free from complicity, free from silence. That freedom is everything. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew something was wrong but were afraid to speak up? What stopped you? And looking back, do you wish you'd acted differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might encourage someone else who's struggling with the same decision. If this story moved you or made you think differently about whistleblowers and corporate accountability, please hit that like button. It helps more people find stories that matter. And if you want to hear more real stories about courage, justice, and standing up for what's right, subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe they're facing their own impossible choice. Maybe they need to know that doing the right thing, even when it costs everything, is still worth it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And remember, your voice matters. Your courage matters. Never let anyone convince you that staying silent is safer than speaking truth. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.